Hello there, Peter Hewitt, la-artistino. I'm back again with the Grasshopper colour along in Hanna Karlzon's wonderful book Sommarnatt. Now that we've got all of our coloured flowers finished, we'll move on to the next section of the drawing. I've been pondering which one to do next, and I think I will do the background next, simply because I want to see how, when I'm applying the colours to the caterpillar and the leaves, how I'm going to make them pop out from the background. So I'll put the background in first. Now, the background that we decided upon, if you remember here, was, this is the picture we're working from, and we've got an ombre effect going from the orangey colour. I may even take that to a yellow colour. I'll see how I feel as I go along. Now we're going to add first, I think we'll start with just adding light layers of everything, the red, the dark red and the orange, and then gradually build up the layers until we reach a point where it's a pleasing amount. Now this is going to be a bit long and drawn out, so a good deal of this will be sped up, but I'll certainly slow it down and explain to you what I'm doing at the relevant points. Okay, we'll begin. I'll just start putting the colours down that we need. We'll have the dark red, the orange glaze, and the pale geranium. Okay, we'll begin. Now, I think what I might do is just do a few little test runs. As you can see here, I've done a test run here of what I think might be pleasing. It's the wrong way round. So if you can think of, you know, the darker red here down the bottom, and I may even go to an even darker red, remembering that these colours here aren't written in stone. You can chop and change them and add colours, which I'm going to do. And I may even go to a red violet down the bottom. That's 194, but I'll see how I feel as I go it, and I'll see if I feel if it needs to have a darker red in there. Okay, or I may use the darker red on the tips of the leaves, I don't know. Anyway, let's put these ones away. We've got the 3 pencils here that I need, which is the orange, the pale geranium and the dark red. So we'll get started by putting in light layers of these colours to see just about where one will start and the other will finish. And we'll go over around all these sort of. I'm thinking about the red sort of being just about round here, so just starting around about the base of the caterpillar's tail, just very, very light. This will be the lightest part of the red. This is where it'll be fading into the dark red. This is where it'll fade into the geranium colour. Just sort of come around here. I'm going to put a very light, faint line so I know where to stop. Sort of be. Okay, so we know with the red, but we want it to be the lightest tones right there and gradually getting darker, but not to start off with. Start off with, we just want to have a bit of light colour in there so we can kind of work out what we're doing. I find during this part, if you've got a lot of tiny little details, it's helpful to have a nice sharp point so you can get right into the corners and edges of those tiny details. If you go over the lines, don't worry, you can just get the corner of an eraser and erase it out before you start colouring. should mention these little dots here, don't worry about going over them, because we're going to bring them to life a bit later on with, well, I'm thinking of perhaps a darker coloured brown and a gel pen, just to make them pop out again. So instead of trying to dance around and colour around these tiny little dots, just leave them, colour over the top of them, and we'll sort them out later. Okay, that's the first layer on, and we are going to go darker than this, but I thought we'll leave it there because we're just putting the first initial light layers on to start off with. Now I'm going to swap to the Pale Geranium Lake, which is one of my favourite colours actually. It's a lovely sort of slightly pinkish kind of warm red that I think is really an attractive colour. And we're going to go and put another layer of this on. Again, I'm not going to go very far with this. I'm just going to make a little border line of how far I want to go up. And I think we'll go right about here, so in line with his back leg, where his back leg sits on the branch. And I'm just going to, keeping in mind how far away we are from that. And what this actually does, we'll bring it up here to where the that end of that first petal on the flower is, and then up to here, so it's about maybe an inch away from the edge of the paper. And again down here, just keeping in mind how far away we are from this, the red. We'll bring it down like this, and that's about as far as we will go with the Pale Geranium Lake before we start with orange. Okay, now the idea behind this as well is you've got the darker areas here going into lighter areas, and that will help draw your eye to the grasshopper's head. So kind of like putting a spotlight on him. Okay, now we'll start with the Pale Geranium Lake, and we will begin by just blending a little bit into where the deep red ends, and starting again, keeping your pencil on the side because this will prevent you from pressing too hard, and also spreads the pencil out in a softer. It blushes the pencil in very gently instead of having harsh lines. Oh goodness. Sorry, we've got a neighbour who's got a car and he's revving it. It's sort of putting me off my stride a little bit. I'll continue want you to blush it right up to there and then make a soft edge right where I have got that line. If you find that line, you've drawn that line in a bit hard, just get an eraser and gently, little circles, just erase it a little bit so you don't have a harsh line. You just want a nice soft grade, gradual blending in with the orange, which will be the next colour we add. Don't forget to colour in those little nooks and crannies as well. Carefully around those flowers we've just coloured. Now the amount of colour and pressure we use will let them resist the next colour, this red colour, from go marking them, but they won't resist them completely. They can still accidentally put a red mark through them, so just be careful there around the flowers. And that's the first layer of the pale geranium on the picture. You can see now you're getting an idea of how the colour is going to work. And if you've done this correctly, there should be a very soft transition between the deep red and the pale geranium, and we're going to continue that soft transition from the pale geranium to orange glaze, which is what I'll start now. Once again, you need to go into where you have previously coloured the pale geranium by about 3 centimetres, 4 centimetres, or an inch, inch and a half, and gradually bring the orange glaze out to where you haven't coloured yet, and create that soft transition from one colour to the next. Just going very gently down here, getting a little stronger. Remember, you're not pressing too hard, and as you can see, I'm still using the side of the pencil to bring out into this area here. And we're going to complete the picture. I think what we'll do is we'll go to somewhere around here, and we'll look at perhaps going to a lighter orange colour or even a yellow colour just right at the top. So I'm thinking that we'll probably do the orange up to about here. So again, I'm going to leave a little soft line. Keep making the distance about the same distance all the way along. So that would be curving, that would be about there, I think. And we'll see how I feel when we get to this part, whether we need to go into a lighter colour orange or whether to continue the orange up to the top. But I'm thinking right now we might even go to the dark chrome yellow, or perhaps either that or we'll go straight into a sort of a cream colour. See how that mixes first on a piece of paper beforehand, but we'll do this orange first and we'll see how we go. Almost finished with my little line to show me where I want to stop. So if you make this line a bit too dark, when you get to it you can always rub it back with an eraser. Okay, that looks about right to me, so we can start. Done this bit, I'm just going to follow through again. Again, remember this is only the first layer. Backgrounds like this do take a bit of time. I know I've shown you how in a previous video how to make your backgrounds, do quite good backgrounds with rubbing in pastel, and there's lots of videos showing you how to do that, not just mine. But I kind of like just doing the backgrounds with the pencils. There's something a little bit more, I don't know, organic about it. And I find backgrounds can be big and boring, but I can also find they can be meditative as well. Just the application of pencil onto paper. It's really up to the individual. Some people don't like doing backgrounds at all and just do the picture and leave the background white. That's fine too. But I think some of the most spectacular pieces that I've seen coloured have a background in it, or, you know, some type of background, whether it's just a flat colour or an ombre design like this, or the very popular bokeh at present, imitating the sort of spotty bits of light you get in particular in photography. You start to see the effect I'm aiming for here. So you've got the darker red going to the lighter sort of pinky red going into the orange. So we'll probably end up with some kind of yellow or cream up the top. I've been looking at this piece and I realise it's getting a little bit, it needs to be a little bit darker down here. So I've selected the red violet, that's number 194 in the polychromos range, and I've added the red violet down here just off camera a bit, but see, all I've done is I've blended in some red violet in just this corner here. I may extend it down a little bit along this line here, and that's over the background colour that we'll use in the original red colour. So I'll just continue to put this red violet here. I'm just blushing it in over the top. Again, we're not going for the last layers, we just want to get a generally good coverage because all this will be going over again. Making sure you get into all those little nooks and crannies. And I'm not pressing very hard here, in fact I'm pressing fairly lightly. I'm just resting the edge of the pencil on the paper. I'm not really putting any, or just the barest amount of pressure underneath it. These pencils layer very well though, so you shouldn't really need much pressure to put them on. Between these two leaves here, making sure to get that tiny little edge at the base. Now if you've been colouring along with me, you may want to stop and put some down here. As you can see, I've added in fairly darkly. It's not quite a final layer yet, but it's a fairly thick layer of the red violet just in this zone here, and I'll start blending it in a little bit up here too. Sorry about that not being in film. On my camera I thought it was on and it wasn't. I'm going up almost to where this orange has occurred, between the orange glaze and the pale geranium, which is giving it this lovely bright orange. In fact, I may have to blend the orange straight down into this, the red violet, if this looks a bit strange here, this colour. It should look like a natural progression of colour from the dark red violet right up here, and where I will put cream or ivory. Just going very lightly to try and get a nice soft transition of colour. Okay, we'll leave that for a while. We'll come back to that with our next layer. We'll continue the orange glaze a little bit further up, I think, because I want to add a yellow. I'm thinking the yellow might be up here at the top. So I'll extend the orange glaze a bit more. Right, okay, we'll swap now to our cream pencil. I think this is my third cream pencil that I've been through. That's how often I use this colour. Just going to lay it outside because I've got a nice long point. Just pop it in there. Just come down into the orange a little bit. We're going to blend those together soon. Going to extend the cream right down here to around about halfway to the grasshopper's antennas. So a nice big blended zone here for the two colours. Right, now you're getting a bit of the feel of how the picture is going to be finalised, remembering that the grasshopper and all the leaves and plants around him will be green. Okay, but now the job we have to do is to get a nice smooth coverage of the background colours. So that means layering them several times over each other to achieve the type of finished effect that we want for the background. So I'm going to begin up here and I'm going to move my way down, finishing off all these colours so that they transition smoothly and they may have a nice glowy background effect. This requires pushing a little harder and putting several layers of pencil down. I know that up here in this corner I want it just to be the yellow colour, so quite happy laying a thick layer of the cream down, because that's the only colour I want up here and then the orange starts, the boundary of the orange starts right here. That's how I'll be starting to play to mix the orange and the cream together. Okay, that's that top bit done. Now, tricky bit, I'm going to just soften this. Now if you think you've gone a little bit too hard with the, this is my little electric Derwent eraser with a bit at the end. I'm just cleaning off the previous time that I used it, which was a dark colour, so that I don't manage to rub it into the light. And I do this just by scraping it off with my fingers and giving it a few cleans on another piece of paper. There we go. Right. Just going to lighten off where I've done the edge, the border of this, because I've gone a little bit too dark here. Just lightly brushing the rubber over like that. Just if you do it on the back of your hand, you can just feel it tingling, and that's all I'm doing with this. I'm not pressing at all. There we go. I got rid of some of the orange that I didn't want. Oops. And then I make another mark just straight away. If you haven't got one of these, just use any eraser that you find is good for colouring books. Right, now I'll bring this down here. I've got a few lines of orange that look a bit dark. There we go. The nice thing about Faber-Castells is that if you do make a mistake with them, they're very forgiving, and they tend to erase, with a good eraser that is, they tend to erase well. With the darker colours you'll always get some residue left behind, but I found that I can generally work with it. Now I'm going to be blending the orange in. A lot of people use blending stumps or mineral spirits to break down the binder in their pencils and spread the colour around to get a smoother result. I don't tend to do that with mine. I mean, that's a personal choice. You get some lovely results with that, but I like just achieving a result which you can still see it's been done with a pencil, but it's nice and smooth and pleasant to look at. It'll be a little more challenging to do it just with a pencil, but I like the challenge. Best results for blending is making slow circles, well not slow circles, but making little circles like this, so that, and moving it along, and that way you'll avoid having streaky looks. I'm using the side of the rubber, and I've made this rubber I keep clean, so always if you're about to do this, make sure your rubber's clean. There we go. Just felt that's just a little bit too bright, a little bit too early. There we go. Just put a bit more yellow on this bit. That's better. I'm finishing off each section at a time as I move my way down the picture. So each section I'm just adding the little bits here and there that I need just to finish it off. This is all a bit of practice and learning to have a bit of an eye with your work, and also knowing when that's good enough. You can fuss forever on the little details, but people will mainly be looking at the grasshopper. As long as it's fairly smooth, that's good. It's all right. Now this mid-section here I'm going to colour with the orange fairly intensely, so you get the nice thick smooth finish until about here, just on the border of where we start to go into the rose carmine colour. So around about this area here I'll stop and I'll start to blend in with the next colour. I'll just be mindful that this bit here has still got a little bit of the cream in. So I'll go a little easier up here so I can mix some cream in to finish the transition in all these small areas. And as I said, I'll work on just one area at a time, get it done, and then I'll move on to the next one. Put this cream in here, just matching it up to the intensity and the colour that's across the way on the other side of the stem. This is the bit that takes a lot of patience, but it can be very calming to colour with the one colour over a wide area and try to get it as smooth as possible. I'll start working up on this top area to put in the last of the cream colour. Okay, we're just about finished with the orange glaze. As you can see, it's had a bit of a workout. We started up here and gradually blended it in with the cream to create a nice steady change of colour till we got to the solid orange here, which I coloured in this section. And then we came to where I had previously coloured in with the Pale Geranium Lake, and I have blended in, continued down with the orange and blended in, getting softer and softer until I reached just about this level here where this purple colour starts, the reddish colour starts. I decided that I didn't want just the Pale Geranium Lake. It just looked a little bit too bright and off-putting between the orange and the deep red. So we're going to join them all together now using the Pale Geranium Lake and blend it in with the orange, having more orange at the top here and more Pale Geranium Lake down here, so that there's a gradual change in colour over this zone here. I'll begin right at the top corner, I think, because that's just about done. It just needs a little bit, and I'm just going to use little circles of the Pale Geranium Lake here, just to fill in this top corner and cover over the orange glaze. And then I'll go over again with the orange glaze to sort of blend it in a bit more, and then if I need to add a little bit more Geranium Lake, I'll do that then. There we go. The Pale Geranium Lake and the orange glaze together makes a very lovely colour. There we go. So just make it a little bit darker right on that edge. I'm not pressing too hard, and I'm just sort of, just a medium pressure, I think you'll find I'm using just here, and going lighter as I travel out into the orange glaze. Just a little bit in there. Don't forget the little tiny corners and little isolated zones. Now going back with the orange glaze to push that in, I'm using a bit more pressure this time. Just to burnish it, I think. Might be about as good as I want. It's a matter of all the little bits. Just every so often you'll find a bit that needs a little bit more colour, and you'll dart across and add a bit of colour to it. This making a smooth background with pencils is just a bit more about the art and keeping an eye on what you're doing, and keep looking back and checking the whole picture to make sure it's all blended in properly. And patience. This entire process you're seeing as a sequence of speed ups actually took me, I think about, it'll end, it's been about 3.5–4 hours now, so probably about 5 to 6 hours for me to do a background like this, as completely finished and deeply coloured as it is. So this is not a slow process. This is put some music on, or put a you know, chain watch a series of programs that you like on, that you don't really mind not looking up at, that you can just listen to. As I said before, I like podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I usually have them playing, or music, while I'm doing this part. Just adding a little bit of Pale Geranium Lake there, and then going over with the orange to burnish it all down. And we'll continue this process throughout the rest of this picture. I think I'm moving from this section right down and around this section till we, whoops, push that back, finish off here in the corner again. Okay, I think we will just continue. Going back up. To the end of using Geranium Lake now, and as you can see I have continued colouring right into the red colour, the dark red that we've got down there. My next colour will be with the dark red, where I'll go over where I've been using the Geranium Lake, that last little piece, and blend it in again, and then using the Geranium Lake this time to burnish it down and sort of extend it down to around about here, where I'm going to, just at the tip of the page, I'm going to be using the red violet. But for now, I'll just finish off this little bit. You always see little bits when you're colouring that you're not quite happy with, and you've just got to finish off. I'm like that, I'm fussy. It's really hard for me to put my pencils down and just stand back and say done. There we go, I'm always going back and altering it and touching things up. Anyway, I think I can call this done. Let me see, the Geranium Lake extends from round about here to here now, is all around the perimeter of this area. So there's quite a large margin of Geranium Lake, more concentrated in the centre and feathering off to the sides. And the next colour we shall pick up will be the dark red. Once again, I'll start at this top area here, which now will be around about where the back of the grasshopper ends, and move our way down around, blending in with the this one, the pale Geranium Lake, which we've just used. So I'll be bringing in the pale Geranium Lake as I do to help burnish down the dark red that I'm using now. So we'll start again just with some gentle bleeding in of this colour, getting darker as we head down towards this point. It's looking pretty good now. Now I do advise you don't rush doing backgrounds. It's a case of you need a bit of patience. continually sort of going over and touching up things and checking your work to make sure that it all looks even, it's all a gentle gradation, there's no bits that stand out that need some more reworking. And if there is, just jump in with your pencils and do what you do. Again, you should be using a medium to firm pressure by this stage. Gentle, more gentle, soft pressure where the two colours meet, because you want them to bleed into each other gently. But firm pressure as you're heading down into this area which I have coloured with the red violet. And the red violet area is around about this size here. As you can see, a very rich colour is starting to emerge. It's a counterbalance to this, the bright colour up the top, and you've got this rich dark colour down here. Grab hold of the geranium and just blend that in a little bit. Try to work your pencils in different directions as well, so you don't have those where you can see the lines of your colouring. You want it to look very, you want to sort of cross hatch and use small circles to colour in so that you don't get that look of having the pencils all running the one way. Try to sort of colour in different directions, so to speak, so everything blends and bleeds into a nice formal colour. So extending your geranium light back up into the orange bit and then down into the dark red to bleed both colours together. This does take practice, I'll admit. It takes a lot of practice and patience to get to the stage where you can confidently lay down a nice ombre of colour and you know it's going to sort of blend in nicely together. But it is worth the practice, it's worth doing. There we go, I'll start with this one. This is nice, I'm doing it sort of like section by section here. You may like to lay down all that colour at once and then go over it with the next layer of colour at once. It's up to you which way you do it. So I'm doing it section by section so I can see each stage complete as I move on to the next one. think it's time to move to the last colour that I've chosen for this, and that is the red violet. That's number 194. Okay, this is the final layer that we're putting on. Once again, I'll put this one on, and I will use the previous colour, the dark red, to help burnish it back into place. See, this looks very light now because I've only got a very light layer on, but as this will be the final layers, I'll darken that right out, the true colour of this red violet. Again, I'll just lightly bring it up into the dark red and then increase the intensity as I get down to the bottom here. So that's the flowers and the background finished. Over the coming days, keep looking at your grasshopper picture and you'll see little bits that need a bit more colouring in or a bit more of a different tone added or something smoothed out. You could even use a blending stump or a blending pencil to help you get a nice smooth looking background. Join us next time when we'll be going green and using the rest of the colours that we picked in our little colour selection. Here we go. And we'll be colouring in the grasshopper and the leaves and the little bases of the flowers and their stems. And until next time, happy colouring! I hope you're enjoying any colouring adventures that you are currently on, and until next time, happy colouring!